Yeah, welcome back, friends. If it's your first time listening, you obviously missed the other pieces. Yeah, we're at this point we're kind of struggling along. We're watching this grass. We're first or second cut in, and we're looking at these other spots. Both clay and residual water standing, what have you. Your first instinct's gonna, be let's reseed, let's get more seed down, let's go, let's go. You got to give new growth, new grass, a chance to really establish itself and start to spread. And regardless of which breed you're talking about, the reason you want that is because as grass grows and grass expands and you keep it cut, it's a weed deterrent. It will actually stop weed seed from germinating. Because some weed seed, as you've seen, doesn't require a whole lot of coverage to pop up. It actually wants to see sunlight. Whereas so many of our other plants and a lot of garden plants just don't like it. Well, depending on when you've done this, obviously, as I say, it is kind of a joke. It's kind of hard to believe that this actually works. But just like with your gardens, you got to give them a good kickstart. Um, there's so many levels of that. I mean, in a garden, you're doing some other things that you're not so much doing in your yard. You could be doing them in your yard. You could, if you're treating your yard and your garden exactly the same, you could get some incredible growth out of your yard. Um, but some people don't want that. Some people just they look at the two entities as two different things altogether, and they're not. And it's the microbiology I'm talking about. I had mentioned this on a person's chat, and they had obviously not read the book, or they had been laughing so hard they completely missed that. Um, Page 63, roughly. Yeah, the practical joke. They completely missed it. And this is something that everybody can utilize. I don't care where in your yard you're talking about. Extremely important in a garden. Flower beds, what have you. Because it's kind of strange, but you concentrate more on your garden and you spend more time on your garden than you do your own yard. People, and people misunderstand that it's the same microbiology. Millions of life forms in there, all working together to help the growing plants. But I had brought this up, and the gentleman instantly thought and actually stated, "Oh, to feed the worms." Um, well, yes and no, but more so no, because you're putting life forms in the soils. And these are the life forms that are going to go into your clay beds and start pulling the minerals out. These are the ones that are going to go out under your plant's instructions. Not only are they going to bore tunnels for the worms to follow, but they're going to bore these tunnels out, down, around, through many different substances looking for what the plants are requesting. And it could be calcium. It could be, any of the stuff off the periodic table. Now, I discovered this while looking at something else. I was having a problem in the pumpkin patch. Again, something from the book. I was having trouble in the pumpkin patch. And it's a form of white mildew was starting to form on one of my sickest plants, the closest one to me, of course, the one I could get to the easiest. And I was researching this after I had pulled the plant, of course, right? As soon as it started getting sick, I ripped that thing out of the ground. And then I went and found the solution. And I kick myself because it's so simple. It's so simple. The problem is, you got to watch what time of year you do this. You really don't want your neighbor's windows open. Because for a day or two, they're going to be calling somebody, because they're not going to be able to explain where this is coming from. So you want to do this really, really early in the spring. You want to do it during air conditioning season, or you want to do it towards the end of the season before the frost hits. And that's add milk, of all things, right? Well, it was a university study that triggered all of this in Nebraska. Now, you've all heard of getting core samples from your yard and finding out what's this, what's that, what's the other. Well, because of circumstances back when this study was done, when they went up to get these core samples, the ground was frozen. And Nebraska winters, well, they can get in the zeros and below negatives, is my understanding. But when they got to this one individual's property, and they set their coring material up and set their machines up, the core cut through the soil like butter, like it wasn't frozen solid. Because of milk, the microbial life had been so active in these areas where he was constantly putting milk down that this area expanded exponentially and had so many pockets in it and had so much aeration in it, both from the worms, the microbial life, following the instructions of the plants in the area, what have you. Even when he let his cattle into these fields, they all migrated instantly to those areas because it was the richest, healthiest grazing material on the farm. Because that's where they were spraying the milk. It was purely by mistake. It was costing him more to throw the milk away, these ending products, the curds, the whey, what have you. He has since gone into other forms of dairy production with cheeses and what have you. But the end result in those areas, it alleviated the clay stress on his property, and the grazing material was able to get to the minerals and be the healthiest. So what I'm saying, and what I'm very strongly suggesting, is that you let your milk stand. If you can get it non-pasteurized, get it and utilize it. And I know a lot of states have outlawed it and have whatever. But if you leave milk stand, I know you got to be careful with the container because it'll explode because of the microbial life. It'll take off. But if you guys just understood the way milk is going to curdle and the way milk is going to change and the way those microbes that were once dormant are going to go back to work. There's a lot of stuff we need to think about for our stomachs too. We need that microbial life. We need those raw foods. We need these materials to help digest and to help this, to help that, to help, like, like having a cow's stomach, but we're doing it in 1 instead of 3. But when you apply this to your yard and your garden, and this stuff takes off in a couple of days, my suggestion is do it 2 or 3 days before the rain hits. Let the milk stand. Get it to that point. It takes a week or so outside, depending on temperatures, obviously. Then you take your hose end sprayer, one of your biggest tools in your arsenal, and you spray your yard down. And you let that microbial life really saturate the yard and saturate these areas in trouble. That's where you really want to concentrate. And you give it a boost of microbial life. You're going to make some changes both in your soils, in your gardens, in your flower beds, and in the root system of the new grass we're talking about. You're going to give it more than it potentially needs. Some of that will go by the wayside because it's not going to be a microbe form that is utilized by that specific plant. I understand that. One of the reasons we want to do this, like this other individual stated, to feed the worms. Now, you don't feed milk directly to worms. Okay, it's a pyramidal cause and effect. It's the food web. Just like we're from the food chain, which is the higher part of all of this, the food web is the microscopic part of this. They're going to start putting off, as they're eating and digesting and bringing stuff back and doing their thing, they're going to start putting off a hint of ammonia. Just a hint. And that's what's going to bring the worms in. And they're going to follow those leads right back to those plants and or right to the source of where they're bringing minerals back from. Worms will bore through a lot of things chasing that ammonia smell, that breakdown smell. And you're going to start aerating those areas in trouble and giving your roots a chance to start expanding. Now, the roots will either follow the microbial life or they'll more easily so follow the worms. So you kind of want to balance this trick and do these two just ahead of the rain. But it's got to take a couple of days. The smell, it'll linger for a bit. But what you get as an end result. See, and this is kind of the whole point of the Green Wizard's Guide is giving you things in your cupboards, your refrigerators, and what have you. Don't throw these things away if you can help it. If you're in one of them backwoods grocery stores and they're pulling expired milk out to get rid of it, get it. Both compost, gardens, anytime, fields, whatever. This is microbial life that you have free access to, that you can put out there. Now, yes, there are other forms. You can order them in, and mycelium is one, and there's so many ways of getting microbial life into your soils and into your yards. But we're talking about, Mother Nature's simplest, Mother Nature's quickest, Mother Nature's fastest. We want to stay away from labs and what have you. We want to do this nature's way. It's going to give you the best results. It's going to give you the greenest yard. It's going to give you the healthiest yard. And yeah, as you're putting this stuff down, yeah, obviously, there's trace amounts of calcium available. There's trace amounts of this. There's trace amounts of that. You're putting all of that down in your soils to help your plants. We had talked about the dandelion a little bit, and One of the things it does is it bores down through your soils and it comes back and its leaves are full of calcium. It's kind of why you don't want to put a chemical weed killer down specifically for any plant like the dandelion and kill that guy off, because it's bringing calcium up where it's needed. That's why the seed germinated. If you watch your weeds, once again, if you watch your weeds, they'll tell you what's lacking in your soil. You don't need to be getting core samples and sending them off to any lab anywhere for somebody to tell you that one of 12 minerals isn't available in that area, because they follow the NPK. They don't necessarily give you a full lab test and tell you all of the minerals that are missing. They just tell you the 12 from the NPK. They're rolling profit too, right? And that's what we're attempting to avoid. So yeah, I would definitely and very strongly suggest that after you've had one or two passes on your brand new grass, you turn your attention to giving yourself a giggle and offending your neighbors with some smells they're not used to, and build up that microbial life. Give Mother Nature a helping hand, and do it as inexpensively as possible. Now, yeah, I mentioned ammonia, and I am not suggesting that you go out there and you water your field in ammonia to bring in worms. You'll do more damage than good. When I tell you, use ammonia, I'm talking trace amounts. When we're talking about a cup of this or a cup of that, we're down to, maybe half a drop or full, half a teaspoon of ammonia in 1,000 gallons of water. Trace amounts of ammonia. We don't want tons of it. We want very little of it. The smell I realize that you're going to get from doing this milk bath in your garden, in your flower beds, in your yard, around your trees and what have you. You're going to get that smell and many, many others. Nose plug might be required. Scented candles is a definite plus inside the house if your ladies are paying attention and are sensitive. They themselves are gonna think something is backing up in the basement, and Roto-Rooter needs to be called or something. So yeah, you can get some good laughs out of this with your neighbors and your family and what have you if they don't know what you're into and what you're doing. The benefits outweigh the amount of hassle and laughs that you're going to get. Like I said, I had discovered this by mistake after the fact, that this white mildew that was growing on my pumpkin leaves, they call it snowy mildew, I believe, or something along those lines. Well, if you start to see some of these forms of mildew showing up in your gardens, yes, obviously there's a different problem. But direct milk on those kind of infestations can correct the problem. That blast of calcium and bringing in those microbes to digest all of that can definitely turn some of those plants around. Now, again, I had caused my own problem. I had been using a Green Up solution, and it was taking the brunt of it, and it made it the sickest plant in my patch in the area I couldn't get to. And again, I discussed this in the book. The area I couldn't get to was my healthiest plants. And this is why I can say, not everybody's suggestions work. Not every guide out there has the end solution, the end all be all solution. You know, some of these tricks that I'm utilizing, I've tested. I know these work. I found research to even back them up, to take it even further, done by world-renowned people and world-renowned colleges. So I'm just advising you here. This is just a guide. Take your lead, or take this, and you know, the direction you want to take this. But there's a lot to be said for Mother Nature's way. So get that milk in those areas that are struggling a little bit, and definitely get that milk from that hose end sprayer, and it does its own balancing. You don't need measurements here. Fill the canister and spray away, and spray those areas of new grass that we've put in. Spray your gardens down as the plants are doing their thing, new plants, old plants, what have you. Spray them down. Watch the difference. The more microbes you have in your yard and in your gardens and your flower beds and around your trees, the healthier everything's going to become. Your neighbors won't like you for a few days. They're going to think, well, let them think what they will. You're the one that's going to end up with the master green yard. Alrighty, I know that was a short one, but the microbial life, guys, this is extremely, extremely important in repairing these soils and repairing your yard and giving your new grass one heck of a chance to take off and be as green and healthy as it possibly can, as quickly as it possibly can. So I appreciate you listening once again. I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, and we'll get more into this new grass and what direction to take it. Okay, thanks for stopping in. You have a great day.